afternoon. Hello, welcome to another Brew at 2. I'm alive today again, hopefully. People can see me in Facebook. Let me know if you're there. Let me know if you're tuning in live. I know it's still the summer holidays and it's bank holiday weekend coming up, so most of you will probably be busy and watching on replay. If you're watching on replay, just type in the comments #team replay, and then we'll know that you've seen today's live with the lovely Harriet from Heart Smart Arts. She's going to be coming up in a second to tell us what she's got going off, a bit about her journey and what her business is all about. But don't forget, there's a few things that I want to tell you today, because we're going into the end of the summer holidays. Next week I'm going to be in full-time. I'm going to be working full-time on my business and for the community. So we've got Be Inspired, which is in 7 weeks, I think. 7 weeks. So don't forget there's tickets available for that. Some of the revenue, so I get an affiliate link and I earn a little bit of revenue off the sale of tickets through my affiliate link. And some of the half of whatever I bring in from those ticket sales, I'm donating to Sheffield hospitals, and more specifically the Jessup wing in Sheffield, because obviously if you've heard my story, you will know that when I had the little set of twins, it was a tough time, and I spent a month in Jessup's, and they literally saved my life in more ways than one, and I'll never be able to repay them. So I like to do my bit for fundraising. So half of any ticket sales for Be Inspired that come through my affiliate link, I'm going to be donating to them. As I said, the school holidays are ending. The little two are turning 4 on Monday, and I can't believe it. Things are going to be ramping up within the community, within my business, for you, for me, for everybody. So if you want to be in with the know, with what's going on, and be the first to hear about new things that's happening, if you jump in the mailing list, I forgot to leave a link in the description, but I will leave one in the comments later. Jump into the mailing list, and then you will be the first to know about what's going on in the community on Instagram, live events or any events that I'm running, workshops that I'm running, and any guests that's coming on Brew at 2. Because from not next week, the week after, I'm hoping to do 2 a week. So you'll see me more often. So now, without further ado, I'll bring Harriet in. She can introduce herself and tell us a bit about her story. Hello.
Hello. I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really well, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
I
forgot to tell the viewers that, because we go live into the mums in the Groove community, Harriet is a mum of a little fur baby.
I am. I am. Yeah, my cat Nutmeg. Yes, totally am. He's a little rascal, but he's good. He's good. So actually, it's perfect timing that we did Brew at 2 today, because your podcast episode. So Nina came on my podcast, which is all about finding hope after having a really difficult time with mental health, and that episode comes out today. So we timed that beautifully.
Yeah, it was good timing.
Yeah. So I'm sure lots of your viewers won't know me, but my name is Harriet. I live in Rye in East Sussex, right on the Kent-East Sussex border, and I work as an art therapist. So I've spent sort of 15 plus years working with children and teenagers as an educator. So I was a primary school teacher originally, an art facilitator, lots of different kind of creative teaching roles. And then I trained in 2017 to become an art therapist as well. So since then, I have been supporting children's mental health. And that's essentially the sort of core of what I do, is working around mental health, creativity, working with children and adults, but specifically what we're talking about is about working with children. So yeah, I have an art therapy practice, private practice, and children come to see me, sometimes with their adults, usually without, but it just completely depends on what's sort of needed. Yes, and then I have sort of another few different elements to that, which I'm sure we'll get onto as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn a bit more about what's coming up over starting on the 1st of September. But what is so you run a podcast, obviously I've been on that and it's gone live today. How did you get into sharing other people's stories and what brought you into this world of helping others?
Oh, that's such a good question, Nina. It's a big question, isn't it? The podcast was actually this year, sort of February time, but the sort of initial idea behind it started before that. So sort of 2019, October 2019, I had a really hard time with my own mental health, and working in mental health as a professional, there's a huge amount of pressure, and I felt a lot of shame around the fact that I was struggling and didn't know how to, I had lots of strategies for how to support other people, but it's so different when you're trying to manage your own mental health, because you can't be outside yourself. And so I had this sort of really difficult time, and it took me a while to begin to feel better. And I kind of found a few things that supported me. And in the past, it's always been creativity, hence me doing art therapy. I've always used art as my kind of way of channeling really difficult emotions and sort of beginning to understand them. But at that point, for whatever reason, it didn't really touch the sides. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. And so I started exploring other ways to support myself, and found some other ways. And it made me begin to get really curious about lots of different ways that people might support themselves and their mental health. I didn't really think much about it. I kind of channeled back into my work and really sort of plowed in, and I love it. That I absolutely love what I do, supporting children, and it does really light me up. So if there was anything that was going to help me to feel better, it was that. But I put it on a bit of a back burner. I had this idea to do something with it, but I wasn't confident to share my story. There's a lot of kind of stigma around which way you fall in the mental health field, whether you're someone who's open and honest about your experiences, or whether you're someone, as a therapist, the old school trainings supports you to not share your story. So you're a blank canvas and your clients can project onto you. And so it took me quite a while to be ready to share that story. And then the pandemic hit not long after. So many people were struggling, and so many people were reaching out for me to help, family and friends. And I knew I didn't have the capacity to help everyone else as well as myself and my clients. And it made me start to think, actually, I should be doing something with this. I recorded the podcast, the first episode, my episode, which is about my experiences. And then I didn't do anything with it because I was like, oh, not sure. I don't know if I can. And then, as time, as the pandemic hit, I kind of felt like I really need to. And I made some connections with some amazing people who then I thought, oh, they'd be amazing guests. Like, if I could get the confidence, started chatting to people. And then it's been a complete intuitive sort of, nudge from there. I hadn't had a podcast before. I didn't know how podcasts worked. I absolutely had to learn as I went, and it was, and I love that. I love learning, and I love doing things. So it's been a bit of a wing and a prayer, go with it, and it's been an absolute whirlwind. I've met some incredible people, and I'm so grateful for all the sort of support I've had from people, and so many people have reached out to me, and just grateful to know that they're not on their own, because we're never on our own with our mental health, but it can really feel isolating. And it's about making those connections with people who can understand your experiences. Nobody's experience is going to be the same as yours, but
and there's some amazing people on your podcast as well, with like a broad spectrum of stories behind them, and how they've come through, and just listening to them, it's they resonate in different ways. Each story you can pick bits out that resonate, And it's, I think when we've been through that, so there's 2 points there. You know, when you said you're either a closed book or an open book as a mental health professional, for me, who's used mental health professionals in the past, in any profession really, I think I'm more drawn to people that have had that story, that have had that experience and know what it feels like, rather than somebody who's really closed and doesn't share anything. And then I feel like, well, you don't know what this is feeling. I feel like, and the fact that we've been through something and then want to go on to help others, you know, through tough times. So I love a podcast. I've been consuming them for a few years now, I think. I was told about a podcast by my own doctor. It was Dr. Rangan Chatterjee that she forwarded me to, and the stress solution book then put me onto his podcast, and I've been hooked, and now I'm like, search for the next podcast that I can find. And then I found you through, I think, Jojo Smith was
of course,
she'd been on and like promoted her being on there, and I found you and I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to share my story with you.
And I think that's it. You're so right about that I agree with you about the open book idea, that I resonate and connect with people more when I know their story. But it is that sort of idea about, in the coaching community, it's really okay to it's really important that you share your story, but from a sort of psychodynamic therapy point of view, and it's not even, you're obviously professional when you're coaching, but it is just that that idea of someone being able to imagine you might be XYZ, a mum, like going to the beach, whatever it is, and so then they can play out some of those things. But it doesn't mean they can't happen, because I think the way that I came to terms with it is the people who would be listening to the podcast would be parents rather than the children that I'd be working with. And if they're an adult and they're coming to me for art therapy, then I think it's totally okay for them to know that I've had my own,
you're a person as well.
Exactly. And I also know what it's like, you understand the experience, because just like you say, with something like mental health, it's so personal and so vulnerable, and if you feel that the other person doesn't really get it, you're not going to open up to them.
No, exactly. So tell me a bit about the new project that you've got going off that's next week.
Yes, I'm very excited about it. I've actually had 3 weeks off, and I keep finding myself sneaking into work. So I'm like, I just want to do the next bit. So I'm starting a subscription for parents. So my business is called Heart Smart Arts, and this subscription is going to be called Heart Smart Parents. And it's not a parenting class at all, because you're already doing that. You already know how to do that. If you're parenting, I know that when kind of people first start out as parents, maybe they want to have that kind of rule book or how-to book, because everything's so hard. Yes, but that's not what I'm going to be doing. Instead, it's personal development for parents. So it's going to be a space where people can come every week. It's a Facebook group, so it's a closed Facebook group, and every week I'll be coming on to kind of share a nugget of wisdom, really, of all of the sort of best strategies, tips, tools, tricks that I've learned in my kind of 15 plus years of working with children, and the things that have really transformed my practice. So what people will be getting from that is some time for themselves, which is so hard and so important. Right.
It's so part of my the Grind to Grieve program that's coming out in 2 weeks' time is self-care, because it's not just, people bang the drum all the time about self-care, don't they? And yet it's still put on the back burner, especially I think as a mom or as a parent. You want your children to be first, but you never tend to yourself. You go to the shops and you buy them clothes and shoes, and then you're like, well, why am I in rags? And and I think it's not just a thing that you need to schedule it. It's a thing that's important. It's a necessity, not just a like want to. It's a necessity.
Essential. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree with what you've said there. And the tendency is to sort of deal with everyone else's needs first, but genuinely it is so true when they say, you know, you can't fill other people's emotional cup unless you filled yours first. And that is what I want to do here, is fill people's emotional cup up, like lots and lots of nurture, a really safe space where you can open up about, you know, things that are difficult, and there are other supportive parents who are sort of like-minded on the same journey. And also just not to bombard people as well. I think, you know, the main reason people leave subscriptions is feeling overwhelmed, and that is not what I'm there to do. It's there to be kind of like in a supportive and nurturing space with kind of short little snippets of some of the best stuff that I have learned that really transformed my understanding of like child development, relationships, how to connect with children in a way that makes most sense and feels most loving for them. And then all of that in itself, as well as being me time for the people in the group, will also support not just their relationships with their children, but with everyone, with their relationship with everyone as well. You know, it's sort of a ripple effect, and it filters out. So that is my subscription that I'm really excited on. I'm putting together, and that begins September 1st. So the enrollment's open at the moment. And people can sign up, and it's a monthly subscription, which is £17.50. And then, it will be closed once we kind of are a week in. It will be closed, and no one can join again until I open it again, sort of beginning of next year sometime, so that you kind of get a really good chance to meet some like-minded people who are very safe and nurtured in that community. And then when we're ready, people can join us, and if you know someone's had enough, they can step out as well, and that's absolutely fine.
Fab. It sounds amazing. You know, it sounds that it sounds very similar to where I'm going, and obviously mine is all about overwhelm and trying to build in tools to stop being overwhelmed, but yours is more of the nurture side for parents, which again it's so important. What about the Heart Smart Arts?
Yes. Okay.
Is that online as well? Is that you can do that? Yeah.
I can. Well, I can. I do. I have two sides to that. So I have art therapy where I work with children and teenagers, and I'm actually in my studio now, sort of seeing some of it behind me. So I do work. I love to work in person. That is definitely my preferred method. I'm beginning to work with children online as well, which is totally manageable. What I'll do is I'll pack up and send off an art kit instead, and we meet online every week via Zoom, as long as they've got a space that's private and they feel comfortable. But that is an option. But so I also, the other side of Heart Smart Arts is that I have, during the pandemic when I couldn't see clients, I was trying to think about how I could get kind of art and resources and all of that good stuff out there when I knew that people really needed it. So I started putting together some art packs, and then as I've started working again, I've tried to kind of keep these up. So I've been adding, every so often I add a new art pack, and they're lots and lots of different things, but they're basically an art kit with everything you need for a well-being activity. All of them have an outcome. They're for children, mostly primary age, but they're sort of younger teenagers as well. And they're for different outcomes like managing anxiety, building confidence. I've just got a brand new one that's not actually out that I'm putting together at the moment, actually, which is going to be called the Grieving Tree. So that's about managing grief. So there's lots and lots of different ones in there. There's some really great ones for managing big feelings, angry feelings. If you've got any little ones who aren't very good at managing that kind of volcano of anger, and sort of learning about that as well. So they all have this sort of well-being, nurture and learning capacity behind it. So I'm using all of my kind of skills from being a primary school teacher and from being an art therapist, and that all of that well-being stuff. So it's really time for children to connect with their parents and have that like one-on-one or two-on-one, or however many there are around the table, enjoying the activity and kind of having those meaningful conversations. And I talk about it as being kind of, it's inspired by art therapy. It's not art therapy because you haven't got an art therapist in the room, but I've given you all of the tools so that you can have your own kind of creative therapy experience. and also just begin to have those tricky conversations. You know, it's got all of the verbal prompts. There's a cheat sheet for parents with each one, so it's got all the verbal prompts so that you can have those questions there and just dip straight in, you know, and ask the things that might, you know, not always be so easy to facilitate or talk about. And children have so much to share with us. There's so much to sort of learn from the way they make art. You know, from my experience working as an art therapist, I will know within the first 1 or 2 sessions, you know, some of the major things that are going on, because children reveal so much through their artwork when they're kind of invited to do that. And so it's using all of that stuff. So the art packs are sort of around the £15 mark. There's lots of different ones. It's always so lovely for any feedback. And if anyone's interested, then yes, you can find all of that on the website.
And I'll get you to leave your details, like in the comments as well on the Brew at 2
Absolutely
Facebook page.
Yeah, that's really fun.
I did some art therapy with my children. Like,
right.
It's in the podcast. You know, we spoke about it in our podcast conversation, and I know that, you know, I at the time I was going through some mental health issues, and I was struggling to put paintbrush to paper, or in case, because I'd done art therapy before, I'd not really clicked with the therapist. I was a teenager and I didn't really want to listen, and they were telling me what I was feeling, and because of what I was drawing, and that's not what I was feeling. I didn't feel like that. So I laugh now because it's funny now, but I drew an alien because the guy I fancied said he'd been abducted by aliens. I'm now married to that man, let me tell you.
That's amazing.
He still
wow.
He still believes that he's been abducted. Anyway, I drew this alien on my paper in the therapist office, and they were like, "That's because you're feeling alienated."
Oh wow.
No, it's not.
No.
So I never went back. I never went back again. And then when I was offered it, but with my children, I thought, you know what? Let's go and do it. I do love art. I do love being creative. I do love getting messy and just chucking paint at paper and not really bothering what the outcome is. And when I first went in, I felt that I was going to be judged again, that I daren't draw anything in case, like, the therapist was looking at me and going, that's because. But it wasn't like that. It was just the creative process, and the fact that then I could, because I was doing it with my children, there were only four at the time. There might have even been 3. So they weren't school age. I did it with a Sure Start Centres, and it was about connecting with your children. It was about having that time together to do this activity and connect, rather than the therapist looking at me and saying, this is why you're drawing this. I know how beneficial it can be to do these activities together, and even with now the kids are older, art always brings out conversation. You know, you can be sat drawing, or we like a vision board, and like cutting out of magazines, and I'm like, oh well, that's amazing, and they'll tell me why they've cut it out, or this beach reminds me of that holiday we had, and blah blah blah. And so it brings out conversations between the children and parents, and I think that's why I love the idea of the boxes, because, you know, doing things at home together is it's a great way to connect with your children.
Definitely. And I think sometimes if you don't feel that creative, you know, yourself as a parent, you almost don't know where to begin. And if you've got like, I'll quite often say to people when they're quite confident, get a big old bit of wallpaper and pens and paints and whatever, and just be really creative. But if you're someone who feels a bit intimidated by that, that's not the right thing to do. Sometimes you need structure and you need organization, and also not everyone likes mess. Not everyone is okay with mess happening, and they want to contain the mess. And I suppose this gives you the sort of ingredients to make it very manageable. You've got everything that you need to do the activity. You're not going to not have something important. That it's having all of that in one place that makes it really manageable. And you're so right with what you've said there. There's something really powerful about shared activities and the conversations that they can facilitate, and the understanding that you can then get of whoever you're having the conversation with, children or otherwise. And I quite often liken it to like when you're in the car with someone and you can have the difficult conversations because you're both focusing on the journey on the road and not on each other, so the intensity is off, and maybe especially I find for children who aren't very confident, or for teenagers who don't talk anymore to their parents, that's the perfect kind of space where they feel that they can begin to maybe share some of those things and feel it's okay.
Because eye contact is a difficult thing to do, I think. And my little boy, he's always struggled with looking at me in the eye, and often if he does, he laughs, and then there was a time where I'd get angry at him. Why are you laughing? I'm telling you off. Or why are you laughing at me when I'm trying to have a proper conversation? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but, and it's the sort of insecurity of it, isn't it? It's very vulnerable when you look someone dead in the eye and they hold eye contact. If you're not feeling very confident, it feels really vulnerable. I've met a lot of children that do that as well. You said about the laughing when they keep eye contact, and even when they're being told off and they can't control it, and it's just in the way that we do. Sometimes we can do that when someone tells us something that's really difficult and we laugh and it feels really inappropriate, and you think, oh no, I shouldn't.
Or at a funeral.
Yes,
like laughing at a funeral. It's like, yeah.
It's like a body's natural reaction to lose the intensity out of the situation. If we laugh, then we can lose some of the stress. It's like a natural bodily reaction. That's a good thing.
Exactly. You're scared of something and you're laughing, and they say, don't you? I'm laughing because I'm scared. I'm laughing because it's true. It's not that it's funny, it's just
exactly.
You don't laugh, you will cry.
And it makes everyone relax, doesn't it? If you can laugh about something, and I think that's really important in therapy as well, that sometimes and I'd never laugh at something when someone's being really sincere and vulnerable, but of course when someone's telling you something and they're kind of finding the awkwardness in it, that you can lose some of that intensity, because being a teenager is so awkward. I don't think I'd relive my teenage years for £1 million. Like it's that, so everything's so intense and difficult, and you're trying to you're really earnest and you're trying to make decisions, and you can't actually make decisions for yourself yet because you're not a grown up, and all of that stuff's really, really hard. And it's hard being a teenager, but it's also really hard being a parent of a teenager. And some of those moments where you can just have a little giggle about something can just really boost that connection and lose the intensity or the kind of pressure that is there a lot, I think.
I remember my goddaughter and my stepson having a fight when they were 5, and we laugh now. Me and my friend laugh now. In fact, we laughed at the time because he said, "She's just hit me with a drum kit." Like, what? It was one of them plastic, like, all-in-one things, but she was like 5 years old, and this man, you could just imagine him picking this drum kit and, like, hitting him with it. And we laughed because we were like, it's so ridiculous that, and although they're fighting, it is so ridiculous that you've got to find the funny moments in that, because what do you do otherwise, really?
And also because often with kids as well, they go from 0 to 100 in terms of angry in like 3 seconds, and like just because someone has taken the right control, they need to smash them in the face.
My stepson's just commented on the feed. He's obviously watching. He's just gone, "That's me." Yes, Cam, that was you.
Love that. I love that. But you know, that's the thing, isn't it? That you feel really passionate when you're a child, and someone's wronged you, and that's good. It's really important. That's safe. You know, we're really scared of our anger. I find, especially in UK culture, and it's actually the part of us that's protecting us. It's really good. It's saying no, that's not all right with me, but we also need to know how to use it. And when we don't know how to use it, it can be frightening, or it can be overwhelming, or other people don't know how to manage it. You know, when I know the stories from when I was little is that I was a tiny little girl and had massive anger, you know, when I was 5, and no one knew what to do with it. And it's that sort of having those skills, I think, of learning how to manage it, and it's actually there, and it's a really good thing. Like, our emotions are there to help us, they're not there to hurt us. We just need to know how to use them and what to do with them when they're tough, and how to channel some of that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
I feel like we've talked about loads of stuff, actually. I think what I would say is it's the end of the summer holidays, and people are probably on their last legs, you know, hanging on by the fingernails. And I think what I would say is just be really gentle with yourself at the moment. You know, there's so much pressure to get everything organised and everything done for September, and have this and everything sorted.
Yeah.
And yes, that is important, but the most important thing is that you're able to slide into September with some kind of smile, you know, being able to be some level of calm. And it doesn't matter if everything is perfect and done. It doesn't matter, you know, if everything doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done, and that's okay. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves as adults, as mums, as women, and actually it's really important just to take care of yourself, because you can only look after everyone else if you're looking after yourself. And also just remember that it doesn't have to be perfect. Things don't have to be perfect. And if you're looking for a lovely nurturing space, come and find me. And if you actually, that's a good thing I should tell you. If you're on my subscribers list, I've got 25% off this weekend for everything on my website. So if you're interested in that, I have a subscribe box on heartsmartarts.com, which is my website, and you'd automatically get an email. So if you did think, oh, those kits sound really good, I'd be interested in having a look. Double whammy, if you get it this weekend, you can get 25% off. So you just have to subscribe, and then also through doing that, you get my resilience ebook, which is all about free and easy ways to boost your children's resilience. So you get all of that in there for free as well.
And I think while they're heading back to school, or you know, like mine are starting school, you can lose those moments. I know it's hard in the summer holidays, and probably when you send them back to school, you feel that guilt pangs again, that you're not doing enough, or they get home from school and they're so tired they don't want to do anything. But what a great way to reconnect, like a weekend, or because it's not a strenuous activity doing art, so you could do it on a night as a calming, like, after school activity. So,
and it can be done in bits as well. You know, you can do 15-20 minutes and then come back to it another day. You know, if it feels, that's the nicest thing about them, I suppose, is that you can just take it at your own pace. And that's really important with all of this stuff, is take it at your own pace.
Well, thank you, Harriet, for joining me today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Nice to chat again.
Yeah.
So you're going to leave in the comments where people can find you, your website address, and
I will.
All the details that people need. So thank you for joining me. I will say goodbye because I've got to go and pick the little two up shortly.
Yeah, and you take care of you as well, you know. All of that advice is for you too. And me.
Thank you.
Take care of me.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll see you again at some point, and we'll connect again, and you can come on again and talk about anything new that's coming up in your life.
Thank you, Nina. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Oh, that was Harriet, everybody, from Heart Smart Art. And I could talk to her for ages. And in fact, on the podcast, we continued talking and talking. It's about an hour long. But it's all relevant and yeah, it's just, I just feel so relaxed with her. It's what a lovely, she's got a lovely therapist vibe, and yeah, I really got on well with her. So back to school next week. There's 2 days off for me, 2 days left of the summer holidays. One is the little two's birthday, and then an extra day. So we start school next week, bright and early on Wednesday. Lots of things going off. There will be announcements in the mailing list. So if you're not on the mailing list, the link is in. I'll leave the link in the comments as well. But thank you for joining me today. If you're following on Catch Up, don't forget to type in replay so that we know you have seen the video. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.